I've been staring into the water beneath me so long, I've fallen into reverie, and now, coming to, is to see that the sea and the first stars, like pinpoints, are piercing the dome of heaven above the dark mountains of Evia across the strait. Much waters flowed beneath the bridge. No time to dally. I shoulder my belongings and make for the promenade, now teeming with citizens, out for the customary evening stroll, the volta, as it's called here in Greece. I position myself where the crowd flows thickest, standing on the edge of the quay, my back to the strait, and I start piping. It seems that music's the very thing that everyone's been waiting for, this delicious evening of spring. For the coins fall thick and fast into the hat before me, and in next to no time I'm able to scoop it up and head for a taverna, knowing that it holds more than enough for a meal and a drink. The wine's dispatched immediately to my table, for I've impressed upon the landlord that intoxication's what I most ardently desire. I watch my host siphon it from one of the gigantic vats that stretches along the walls, and now I charge my glass and tip without restraint the musty, potent nectar down my neck. I drink to your spirit, Greece, to your pure light, your sweet air, which intoxicates me, scented as it is with marjoram, oregano, saffron and thyme, with fennel, rosemary, eucalyptus and pine. I close my eyes. You pervade my senses. I see you enwrapped all around by sea, and on your wind-blown heights I catch the strains of some dim-remembered music. And with the constellations turning like wheels around me, there is some rhyme, some reason. I raise my glass, drink from the brim to the dregs, tonight and every night. Full-throated, I sing to the moon who sails the sky, confounding reason, magnifying rhyme. Where the stars lift me towards the heavens, she flings me back to earth, has me ponder earthly things, love, the flesh, and from these sweet agonies, a terrible tension, poetry springs. Here comes supper. The landlord's emerging from the shadows with a steaming bowl of soup, a salad of fresh tomatoes, cucumbers, olives, paprika and goat's cheese. Caliorixy, he smiles. Enjoy your meal. I glance at him from time to time as I tuck in. Seated by the door, he looks out into the night. There's such dignity in his manner, such serenity in his countenance. It's the late 20th century, and here, living and breathing before me, is a figure from the pages of Homer. A customer from a table at the end of the dim-lit, barn-like interior is calling out for more wine. Andrea! Andrea! Ferimas allocracy! So, his name's Andrea, and his taverna will become my refuge here in Halkida. I retire here every evening to this flag-stoned inn to refresh myself after busking on the waterfront. Yes, I sing for my supper these days. That is, I blow down a piece of piping a foot long with holes in it, and it emits the melodies welling up from my heart. Any Irishman will recognize the description I've given of my instrument as that of a penny whistle, and it's thanks to an Irishman named Sean I now play it. I'm going to give you this, he'd said, as we sat over a bottle of wine, and reaching into a bag beside him, handed me my first shiny whistle. Practice every day, and one day you'll find yourself in the magical realm of music," he'd said. Well, I did just that, and now I don't need to look for empty bottles, for parks to steal flowers from, or to sit on the pavement with a piece of cardboard. I have merely to pull the pipe from my pocket, throw a hat onto the ground in front of me, and blow. Whilst I'm on this subject, I'd like to tell you what anyone who makes his livelihood on the street becomes increasingly aware of. The street is a living creature, constantly moving. It attunes itself to the spirit of the citizens. It has its character, its moods, its quirks. It waxes and wanes, and at night it sleeps. It dreams, who knows what dreams. I've lingered and loitered on the corners of every kind of thoroughfare, and am somewhat impervious to the unexpected, for at any time anything can happen. Streets bulge and streets leak. The merest side street can bleed the main drag dry. One has to take the pulse, to sense the mood, and then to plunge in where the crowd, the flow, is thickest. Like a fisherman, I cast my melodies from the river bank and reel in the silver flashing fishes. This wine, Cressy it's called here in Greece, a potent potion indeed. Look, as I hold the glass up to the light and squint through it, all manner of flotsam of deep-sea beasties swim before my eyes in its murky depths. Just as a lot of waters flowed beneath the bridge since those days and that terrible night in Paris, a lot of this stuff sailed down my gullet. In fact, it's been some years now since I've seen the sober light of day, for I've given myself over to a drunkenness unmatched by any previous excesses. Not to kill grief any longer, but with those lines of Rimbaud in mind, a poet becomes a seer by a long, prodigious and rational disordering of all the senses. Dissolution and coagulation. The Bacchic frenzy of fermentation leads to exaltation. Another jug of wine, please, landlord. My soul begins to stir. My soul who'd suffered and shriveled so long in my darkness. She it is that brought me here, to these translucent shores. She needed to drink light. And such light there is here in Greece. Ah, yes, just as it was my heart which pulled me to Lisbon, it was my soul which pulled me here. And just between you and I, it's this wine which shall pull me time and time again into this taverna. Ha! Exaltation. Perhaps my soul has known all this before. Now that's a thought. It would explain this uncanny feeling that I'm always on the verge of remembering something. Something I don't remember, but not forgotten. I'm stumbling my words now. I think I've had a little trouble doing that, but I'm just getting into the swing of getting my wind. The fire is rising up, as it were, an underground stream in which, if I immerse myself, I remember the spring of my childhood, the nightingale in a golden garden, the 9 daughters that sang unseen but stirred distant chords of memory. What ancient longings and memories haven't I left in this land? Strolling out along the roads beneath the sun and the moon and the stars, musing, talking to myself like I am now. If there's one way I'm ever going to get to know myself, it's by strolling along roads, talking to myself. Perhaps that's all I really want to do. What ambition, huh? What, asked God, before plunging me down into this life on earth, would you most like to do? To stroll along roads and talk to myself, Lord. Ha! You're easily pleased. Well, here's a pair of boots, and a dictionary as a parting gift. Yes, and perhaps I'd rarely have been content to do just that my whole life long. For really I'm never happier than when I'm out under the skies, magnificent vistas all around me, and talking to myself. Yes, perhaps I rarely would have been if I hadn't had to contend with my earthly desires. I'd have remained pure, undefiled, and would be back in heaven by now, sitting beside the Father, my boots alongside my pork pie hat. But what wouldn't I have seen? What wouldn't I have done? God would have sent me back down to go and do them. And he'd have given me a bottle of strong liquor this time as a parting gift. You see, I've been so deep in musing and monologuing, or is it soliloquizing? Soliloquizing, as as they're always doing in Shakespeare, coming out onto the front of the stage and soliloquizing. Can't quite get my tongue around that word, but those are the bits I love most in his plays. And I've hardly noticed the three youths come in and take the table next to me. But I'm becoming aware of them now as they talk and joke amongst themselves, and increasingly feel their attention directed towards me, if I'm not greatly mistaken. No, I'm not. You see, one of them's getting up, and with a couple of faltering steps is standing a little unsteadily before me with a question. Tu parles français? Oui. Merveille, he exclaims, stretching his hand to mine and introducing himself. His name is Gary. I tell him mine, but for some reason known only to himself, I'll always be Papa, or simply Pa, to him. He's small, dark, his face expressive, kind of comic, kind of like a clown, and yet tragic, and his head, which seems so big in comparison to his stature, is a wilderness of tangled locks. He stands before me, swaying a little, silent, pensive, and then, "I knew we'd meet," he says. "We had to." And seeing my surprise at his emphatic words, he explains, "I saw you on the promenade. I heard you play. I was with my friends here. I said to them, I have to meet that man. It must have been the music. It went straight to my heart. And I knew that if we could meet, we would understand each other. We'd be friends." Oh, take a seat. Call your friends over, I said. "This is Vangeli. This is Achillea," says Gary, as his two friends cross over to the table. We shake hands and greet one another. "Yasu, Yasu." "Let's drink." "Yes, let's. Pane. Aspropato," says Achillea. "Down in one go. Yes, that's the way." "My friends are Greek," says Gary. "Me, I am from Belgium, but I am a mixture. I think I am more Italian than anything else." "You look like you're Scottish." "I haven't met a Scotsman before, but if I did, I think he'd look like you. Are you?" "Yes," I love her. "I'm half Scottish, half English, and half Irish." I can see Gary trying to work that one out. "Let's drink." "Pame, aspropato," says Achillea.